Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Will is your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Today is a solemn day in Washington, D.C. and throughout the country because El Señor Lewis, who died last week, they are taking him around the country, eulogizing him around the country. A well-deserving person. And when you listen to this guy was a real radical. But in as much as he was a radical that took nothing for granted, he was one of those radicals who said, I still love everybody. And that is the model I would like to follow myself. That is the model we should want to follow. Not to look at the people who we disagree with, not to look at the people who have done us great harm, and just simply wanting to do exactly what they have done to us. It's not about turning the other cheek. It's about when do we stop to move forward? Can we think about who comes after us? Who comes after us sometimes means that at that point we make a change, we make a difference, we go ahead and say, you know what? For the betterment of humanity, for the betterment of who we are, to make a better society. Just maybe. I won't turn the other cheek. I won't forget. I won't even necessarily forgive. But to move forward, I know that what I must do is to move forward. And I think if there's one thing I can say I would have learned from what I've seen of Mr. Lewis, that is what we can take. In other words, it's not giving up who you are. It's not just forgiven for forgiven's sake. It is not giving the other person a pass, but it is actually saying, if I want to move forward, somebody has got to bend. And you know what? For society, I don't mind being the one bending. And that comes with maturity. That comes with adulthood. That comes with selflessness. That comes with saying, I don't have to win if everybody else around me is winning. That's our message of the day. Our program today, we have a serious well, all our programs are serious, but this is a program I want you guys, first of all, if you're just joining us, please, folks, share right away on your walls. I ask you so kindly. Share. That is how we can get this message across. One of the things we have is that people don't know this stuff because a lot of the mainstream media has no interest in covering it. And the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the wealthy, those folks in control of the country, they have no desire, they have no reason to make sure that you have más en el cráneo, have more in your brain. They don't need you to have that. They don't want you to be smart. And the reason they don't want you to be smart, they don't want you to have that is simple. Because a smart citizen, and I shouldn't say smart, we are all smart, but an informed citizen is a dangerous citizen for those who would cause harm. Don't ever forget that. Mostly everybody that you see, that you know, including those folks that you think, oh, these folks are crazy, oh my God, they're not. Respect, and actually my book, I've completed my book last night. I'm doing the review right now, and my book is about talking to people on the right wing. 100 and something pages. And here's the deal. They want you to be dumb, or they want you to be fighting. Because if you're fighting, you're not enlightening yourself, you're not getting strong, you're just trying to be right. And that is where we got to get away from. So today's show is titled, We Are Neither a Democracy Nor a Free Enterprise Country. $600 a week COVID-19 fraud. Is $600 a week really a problem for Republicans that they think Americans just, if they get $600 a week, they're going to sit on their butts and not ever want to work again as if there are jobs to go to? We got to realize we're being played. Subtitle, until we realize that we have never been a democracy or a free enterprise system. the system will continue to play us all as puppets. I don't know about you, but I hate being called a puppet. I hate being anyone considering me something or somewhat of a puppet, and I'm pretty sure you don't as well. But anyhow, so that's subtitled Democracy is something one has to demand from those who have usurped it. America is great at marketing. Every American believes they live in a democracy. Some call it just a democracy, some call it a Republican democracy because it is really a representative democracy. But people just say, "Oh, America, we are free." That's what they think, but it's not true. They believe capitalism is synonymous to democracy and free enterprise. Why? Why? Because that is how we were marketed to, because that is what we were taught, that is how we were indoctrinated. So we're going to get into that with one of my blog of the week that is really but a rant that I started out with on Facebook and got a lot of feedback from, and I want to talk to you guys about it. And by the way, the calls today, if you want to call in, the telephone number is 346-248-7799, and the code to get in is 254-600-9091. Again, 346-248-7799, and the code to get in, 254-600-9091. Okay. Before I get started here, actually, you know what? You know where I should really start? Where I should really start is something that should upset every humane person on the planet. Yesterday, I was just going through Twitter, and this stuff just popped up from a newspaper on this senator. Senator Tom Cotton. Anybody ever heard of Tom Cotton? Senator Tom Cotton. I think, where is he from? Oklahoma, I believe. Senator Tom Cotton. I want to read you something. Let me go ahead and put that on the screen. This is what Senator Cotton had to say. This is interesting. Republican Senator, slavery was the necessary evil upon which the Union was built. And he says the following. You cannot make this stuff up, folks, but just maybe this Republican senator was just being honest. America's fast power and ascent were dependent on the ability of its founders to be inhumane. And its economic system has always placed economic success of the few over humane values. Thank you, Bruce. It's Arkansas, not Oklahoma. I always kind of get mixed up with where Cotton is from. So here's what the article says. There's a 1619 project, right? And a lot of people are pissed off at it because it is a project that is really detailing the genesis of America, and it centralizes on black people. That's what the project is about. And what it's doing, it is not trying to color and whitewash what it was like to be black in America in 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and even 1900s, and even now, 2000s. Anyhow, a New York Times-based school curriculum emphasizes American slavery instead of American independence has been targeted by U.S. Senator Tom Cotton. The Little Rock Republican introduced legislation Thursday that would prevent the use of federal tax dollars to spread the historical reinterpretation in the nation's classroom. So here it is, a Republican senator who supposedly believes in federalism, states' rights, is going to interject themselves into states' rights by telling them how they can teach. While labeling 1776 as the nation's official birth date, the 1619 Project seeks to reframe American history by considering that what it would mean to regard 1619 as our nation's birth year, which is probably true. Timed to coincide with the 400th anniversary of the arrival of African slaves in the Virginia colony, the 1619 Project was launched last year by Times. arguing that it is finally time to tell our story truthfully. The project aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. Is there anything wrong with that? Should anybody really complain about that? I think that is honorable for everybody because it is all our history. It's not black history. It is American history that she wants to put out there. American history. So anyhow, turns out, if Cotton's legislation passes, school districts that embrace the curriculum would no longer qualify for federal professional development funds, money that is intended to improve teacher quality. Federal funding would also be lowered slightly to reflect any cost associated with teaching the 1619 project, including in planning time and teaching time. In other words, they want to castrate any school that attempt to tell the truth about what has occurred in the United States of America. In the interview, Cotton said the role of slavery can't be overlooked. Okay? The role of slavery can't be overlooked. And this is what he said. We have to study the history of slavery and its role and impact on the development of our country because otherwise we can't understand our country. As the founding fathers said, it was the necessary evil upon which the Union was built. But the Union was built in a way, as Lincoln said, to put slavery on the course to its ultimate extinction, he said. Pause for a minute. I want everybody that's listening to me to pause for a minute and make believe that this has nothing to do with blackness. This has nothing to do with Africans. Just let's look at this from a human point of view. If somebody came to you today and they said, we want to move America forward. To move America forward, we are going to have to put a few people under dominion. How should we put those people under dominion? Okay, everybody with blue eyes and blonde hair from now on will be in bondage, and that is what's going to help us move forward. Let's look at it that way. What would your thought process be that in order to move forward faster, you have to get free labor, you have to get all these wherewithals from a group of people? Nobody would go for that. Everybody would sit down and say, that just isn't right. That is wrong. The reason I said take out the blackness out of it, America has still, within the psyche of many, including within the psyche of many good people, in as much as we all talk the word of humanity and we are all human and we are all equal, many times we have allowed our institutions to not do that, to keep within ourselves that if you're a white person and you have to hurt somebody, you hurt in levels of gradation. You hurt the lowest person you feel is on the totem pole, the less equal person, right? That is a built-in thing within our psyche that we have to extricate, but we have to be intentional in its extrication. That is the reason that Tom Cotton felt okay to say what he said. If it were blue-eyed blondes that were in bondage, who now wanted to tell their stories, just like how these girls that were made prostitutes by these rich guys want to tell their stories, and nobody say forget about it. Everybody wants to hear how they were treated badly, how they were taken advantage of. People want to know what bad things were done to them so that it could be mitigated, so that we could solve it. That is the same feeling. One has to be intentional. If it's not natural, you have to have it occur. You have to make it a part of your inner being to have that empathy to say, that could be me. That could be me. But Brother Cotton, Senator Cotton, couldn't see it that way. Senator Cotton was simply pissed that what is occurring in America today is that finally people can start telling the truth. People don't have to lie to themselves. Women no longer have to sit back and tell a guy, oh yeah, you were really good. Women don't have to sit back now and say, honey, husband, I wash your feet. I do all that's necessary because my name is woman. So because I'm a woman, I have to accept a certain position. No longer is that necessary. And of course, what that means when I say a woman doesn't have to appease a man anymore, a black person, a Latino person, an indigenous person, a native, no longer has to say, I don't want to upset the majority population, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. That is not necessary anymore. That is not necessary anymore. And when that is not necessary anymore, and everybody should be glad about that, the truth can come out. You can actually talk about how you really feel. And this doesn't only apply to women. This doesn't only apply to black folk, Latinos, and whatever. This applies to everybody, white men also. There are different sects in these countries that has always been aggrieved. That's why I use the term, when we unite the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia, because all folks in this country have been played. They've been played, and they've been played by using others as well. They've been played by saying, I will teach you how to hate, so that if I teach you how to hate that other guy, you don't see the real pain that I am inflicting on you. And that is what we have to recover from. That is what I wanted to bring up when it comes to Brother Cotton, because I wanted to reflect this on those who are listening as well. I wanted to tell those who are listening as well that it is so necessary, right, for us to not only seek or point out when folks are wrong, but also look within ourselves. Hola, Dimitri OG. Looked within ourselves, because many times, and I'm putting this in my book, it comes out, I'm debugging it now. I think I'm up to like 113 pages. It's probably going to be 115, 125 pages or so. But the thing that I'm trying to get across is a certain type of humility, a certain type of, what is the word that I want to use? I want to point out to people that we have to change from within. And it's everybody. It's everybody. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to my first video of the day, El Señor Ali Velshi, because we're going to first talk about what's happening to democracy. So let's go ahead and, Ali Velshi, take it away. This piece by Ali Velshi, what I did is I took out a whole lot of the spaces, and I also cut a few superfluous parts out, but it's a very important piece that you need to listen to, because what it shows here is where we're heading to. But most importantly, this is something that we need others to see. We need to inoculate people against what is actually occurring.
Take a moment. Process this. This is the United States of America. Did you know that? Sounds like a silly question, but I mean it, because little by little, over the last 3.5 years, this country has changed. Have you noticed that it's not the same America we once knew? Well, if you haven't, that's part of the point. That's how democracy starts to slip into authoritarianism. It doesn't happen all at once. But at some point, you start to look around you and you realize that the values of the country that you know and love have been replaced with more sinister ideals by the people in charge. And you realize that those sinister ideals are designed to keep those in power in power. It's not about you or us, it's about them. And anything that goes against those sinister ideals, no matter how central they are to the founding of this country, gets tossed aside. Rules fail, norms change, institutions begin to crumble. This isn't some futuristic dystopian novel about America. This is America in 2020. America is in crisis. Our democracy is under attack. The historic social unrest, the recession, the ever-raging pandemic, it's now bringing those sinister ideals into sharper relief than we ever could have imagined. The Constitution of the United States protects the freedom of free speech and assembly and protest. Not in Portland, Oregon tonight. Armed federal agents are patrolling the streets of Portland. Federal forces wearing camouflage and military gear as if they were at war, using tear gas on demonstrators. According to a lawsuit filed by Oregon's Attorney General last week, federal agents, quote, have been using unmarked vehicles to drive around downtown Portland, detain protesters, and place them into the officers' unmarked vehicles. And breaking just now, a federal judge has denied a request by the Oregon Attorney General's office for an order that would have required federal law enforcement officers in Portland to identify themselves when making arrests and would place limits on the detention and arrest of protesters. It's one of several lawsuits challenging the Trump administration's deployment of federal officers, but the deployment itself is only part of the problem. Since when do we tear gas peaceful protesters in America or shove them into vans? It's not just the actions, it's the justification for them. Listen to how the President of the United States describes the situation in Portland.
Let us go in, we'll clean it up. We'll clean it up. Now, in Portland, we had to do it because they're anarchists. That's a level that people haven't seen, but they're anarchists. And they were going wild for 51 days.
All right, let's be clear. At no point has Portland seen anarchists. The city's not going wild. And for that matter, no city that has seen protests for racial and social justice since the death of George Floyd has devolved into any of the anarchy that Trump talks about. Cities are not burning. No one is coming for the suburbs. Homeland Security official Ken Cuccinelli called out Portland protesters for having gas masks and shields, claiming that protesters were preparing for violence. The protesters in Portland are protecting themselves from agents of the government of the United States, a government not allowed to use tear gas on its enemies and adversaries, but who used tear gas on them. When I covered the protests in Minneapolis, I had a gas mask and a hardened helmet and a bulletproof vest, not to protect myself from anarchists, but to protect myself from authorities. I was caught in the middle of 4 different tear gas deployments. So were many of my colleagues covering protests across the country. The Constitution protects free speech, and yet our government appears to be criminalizing it. These protesters are, in the words of the First Amendment, quote, petitioning their government for the redress of grievance, or, as we say today, fighting injustice. They're doing it without the tools of power, without tear gas and rubber bullets. They have their hands, and sometimes they link arms to protect each other. And yet they are demonized by those in power. Fear in Americans, fear that in turn is used to remain in power and put even darker ideals in place. It's why Trump tweets about law and order every couple of days. It's why he just lied in a tweet to, quote, suburban housewives, claiming that Joe Biden would destroy their neighborhoods. He wants you to be afraid. He wants you to think that only he has the power to take away that fear. It's a zero-sum game. If someone else gains, you lose. Such an old trick, and it keeps on working.
It's an old trick, and it keeps on working. I wanted you to see this. This is a very important piece that Ali Velshi just did. It puts a whole lot of what's going on into context on our path to fascism, and how, in as much as we should not have another term of Donald Trump if everything else is equal, the ability that many fascists have to really frame something, to have you change your mind, because of the things they instill into your mind in sort of a very subliminal method, it actually works sometimes, as Ali Velshi just said at the end. So folks, don't forget, this sort of narrative must be shared so that we can inoculate people from what Donald Trump and his fascists are actually doing to the American democracy. To the American democracy, absolutely. That is what they're doing to our American democracy. Anyhow, hey, Bruce, if you're listening, I would love to hear what it is that your son had to say about that, because I think I would, I like to hear different points of view, and would love to see what is it that you exactly meant. That would be a cool discussion. Now, folks, let's go ahead and continue. The show is titled, as we've spoken about before, "We're neither a democracy nor a free enterprise country." And I wrote a special blog post for that. It's time for the weekly blog post. Haven't done that in such a while, forgot to hit the button. Anyhow, America is neither a democracy nor a free enterprise country. Can we make it so? Yes, we can. The form of government I believe in is true democracy. The economic system I believe in is free enterprise with a robust social safety net. I bet all of you believe that as well. I bet whether you're right wing or left wing, you believe that as well. set. And by the way, people say, oh, no, no, no. The left wings, the right wing definitely, they want small government. They don't really believe in that sort of thing. And I say, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. The biggest part of government is Social Security and Medicare. Name me one right winger who doesn't want their Social Security and who doesn't want their Medicare. And if they say yes to those two, then they want a robust social safety net. What Republicans have done for a long time is to make it seem like those other programs that they have is a takeaway from these good people for those bad people. And that is how they get or confuse people into thinking they don't want these what do you call them? Entitlements. I don't even know why they call it entitlements. They should call them demands. Anyhow, many get upset when I point out we live in neither a democracy or a free enterprise country, except for what are inalienable rights. In a true democracy, majority should always rule. What do I mean by that? There are two kinds of a democracy. The vote of the majority should never be able to take away your humanity. The majority should never be able to say that, well, you cannot speak freely. The majority should never be able to tell you certain things. We call those things inalienable rights. So there are certain things in our system that does not fall under democracy. The democracy is you and you only. Your right, your inalienable right. But there are other things that we let majority rule. Majority rule how we're going to spend the budget. Majority rule what kind of streets we're going to build. Majority rules anything that does not cause you harm. Majority are a choice when they are a choice. A majority cannot take away anyone inalienable's right, but a majority should choose who governs us. And our economic system must be such that one is free to create, build, produce, and sell anything they want if they create no involuntary harm to anyone. And of course, that's not true today either. And I've given you guys the story many times that one click from Amazon was patented. Well, how do I know one click from Amazon was patented? Because I was developing a cart back in the middle 90s, I think it was, a cart program for the internet when the internet was still freshly new. And when I did a patent search, I couldn't do it because Amazon owned the patent to one click. I didn't think something like one click was patentable. I didn't think that procedure, there was anything special to that. But look it up. I also wrote it in my book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. But as it turns out, our patent system and many of our systems prevent us from really having free enterprise, prevent us from having real democracy. We have a semblance of democracy. We are fooled into believing that capitalism has something to do with free enterprise and democracy. Recall that China, however, is one of the biggest, most productive, most efficient capitalist countries in the world. Do you see anything democratic about China? Is there really any free enterprise in China? I would say not. So the fallacy that we've done in this country to equate capitalism and democracy, capitalism and free enterprise, is a figment of our imagination just to enable them to control you. Because like I've said before, there's a lot that you can't do. There's a lot you can't do in this supposedly free market system, free enterprise system. In a time when 40 million Americans will see suffering not seen since the Depression, our economic system is defined by a stock market that is doing comparatively well. One must ask, why? Why is the stock market doing so well? Please tell me why. Mom and pop stores do not trade stocks on the stock market. And as mom and pops and small businesses fail, the large corporations and multinationals will grow like no other, even with a smaller population capable of spending. So I want you guys to understand what's going on here. What's going on is simple. What they're doing is they're saying, to hell with mom and pop stores. We don't care about that anymore because the big boys are going to see that we are going to make more money. The market is going to be smaller, but we are going to get an ever-expanding part of that smaller market. So they don't mind harming the thousands. They don't mind harming the millions and getting the thousands of small businesses out of business. They don't mind that at all. Because what it means is Amazon is growing like bunkers. Jeff Bezos has doubled his wealth because of coronavirus and more people buying from Amazon. Think about that. Amazon profits from coronavirus, right? In an honest economic system, the excess profits would go back into the system to make the parts of the systems that were affected by the coronavirus whole. People say, that's socialism. No, that is pragmatic management of an economy. An economic system is not divine. God didn't say, let's go ahead and create an economic system that works like this. We create an economic system so that we can have exchange of goods, exchanges of things. That some people get wealthy off an economic system is a mal-designed economic system. Now, I'm not saying that we want equal access to, or rather, we want equal outcomes. We don't want a lazy person that doesn't want to do any work be able to have all the things that somebody who works 24/7 is going to have. We don't want that. So there are levels of profits that mitigate those things, right? In other words, you want to live a better life and you're a hard worker, that happens. But then there are other things in humanity that we have to take into account. We cannot tell a person who's going to get a bad disease, but if we value life, we want to keep them alive, and we don't want their entire family to have to suffer because they were unlucky. And we can talk about a lot of issues that way that we won't want. An economic system is supposed to be designed for humanity and not the other way around. But anyhow, so all of this is by design. That all these small businesses these small companies are going out of business. All these restaurants are going out of business. But you know which chains are going to do fine? Taco Bell, Fry's, Burger King, McDonald's. All of those guys are going to survive. They just have to sit and wait. Because as all those mom and pop, small, independent Chinese restaurants and Mexican restaurants and all these other restaurants go under, these chains are ready. They're ready to feed you. And when the economy opens back up again, and when we are all not susceptible to the coronavirus, there will be less of these small places to go to, and we're all going to be going to the TGIF, to the Papas and the Papados and and all these other chain, corporate-driven restaurants. See, that's how it happens, right? Now, a true economic system would understand that the diversity in businesses is a good thing. And it would say, we will mitigate that. We will hold time. We'll stop time economically until this thing can be mitigated. In other words, we stop time. We put a brakes on economic movement. And when we put a brake on, everybody's made whole up and until we restart again. There are ways to do it. It's man-made, human-made. We can do it. But what we have is an inhumane, dog-eat-dog, cannibalistic economic system called capitalism, of course. There's no room for humanity there. Those who have capital can hold on to that capital and survive. I want you guys, and the good thing about the coronavirus and what's occurring right now is we can allow people to see exactly what is going to happen, right? They can actually see, oh, this is what our economic system does. If something bad happens, the small guy is always going to go out of business because those with capital are the ones who survive. Those with capital are the ones who survive. And that is what we have to learn. That is what we have to tell others. When people start protecting, like, oh, we can't give people $600 a month because it's going to stop them from working. Working Where? And they said, well, we can't give them $600 a month because they are making more than we are willing to pay them. To which you ask, why? Why is $600 a month too much money? Because corporations don't want to pay a lot of their employees at least $600 a month. The way I see it, that $600 a month looked like a great incentive to not even have to say, let's raise the minimum limit to a $15 limit, because by people being able to stay home and make $15 an hour, let me see, 40 hours a week times, oh yeah, that's $600, $15 hour for the weeks, huh? Wow, great. Great. That is what it's supposed to be. But nobody wants to say it, right? Nobody wants to. Yeah, you could try something like what Ivanka said. Ivanka said, time to redo your business model. Go ahead and try something else. Go look for something. Whew, I tell you, it's crazy. Anyhow, there are answers, but we must be willing to dispel our Powell Manifesto indoctrination, ideologies, and gullibility. We must be willing to forego our simplistic, superfluous rhetoric we as a people have been reduced to as a form of political discourse. Those who control us are not all that smart. They are just more ruthless, immoral, and inhumane. I want you guys to, that sentence, I didn't mean to be mean. I just wanted to be honest. And you have to tell the system what it really is. It is ruthless, it is immoral, and it is inhumane. The fact that we have a Congress debating whether we should let people starve or give them $600, whether we should let them go out on the streets or give them $600. It's inhumane. And why is it that I'm calling what the political guys are inhumane? Because the only reason they're doing this is because the corporatocracy is telling them you can't give them $600, because if you give them $600, we are not going to get them to come back to work unless we pay them $700. To which we say, pay them the damn $700. And your business is going to get better because people are going to have more money. It's a shame that right after giving people $600 a month, guess what happened to America's income? The income of Americans in the aggregate shot up. Paying a living wage to everybody forced our national income upwards. If one's national income is upwards, one makes more money. But that's not what the plutocracy wants. The plutocracy doesn't want full employment. The plutocracy doesn't want people flushed with money. They don't want that. They need to have people scared of losing their jobs, scared of where the next dollar is coming from. Because if they have people in that state, they will always have workers they can get on the cheap, and workers on the cheap means more profits for the company. More profits for the company means a higher share value. A higher share value means these shareholders definitely won't complain when those executives afford themselves huge bonuses. Bonuses on the slave labor provided by their underpaid employees. You see, it's all a cycle. We have to understand that, and when it comes to talking to our right-wing brothers and sisters, we have to let them understand that this is a con on them. A lot of progressives already understand this stuff, but it's a con on them. So there are answers, but we have to remember that these answers mean forgetting what we've been taught, forgetting what we learned about the economic system, because it makes they have lied to us for decades. Greed is good, as stated by the fictional self-serving Gordon Gekko, is false. Reality proves that greed is the motivational factor, as the motivational factor for a vibrant economy is provably false. I must repeat. Reality proves that greed as the motivational factor for a vibrant economy is provably false. Think about how baseless the statement is. And let me give you two examples. This is important. The people who invent, the people who create, the people who serve you have been doing so at a discount to those with capital for centuries. And they have yet to kill the billionaires out of greed to take the earnings that their intellect and service created. And that there is more of these who serve and create than those with capital from a system they have rigged since the inception of America. Let me expand that a little bit. Engineers continue to engineer. Doctors continue to serve. Lawyers continue to serve. All these different institutions, people at work institutions, they continue to do their work. They don't get the full value of what they produce, right? When a doctor works for a hospital system, that hospital system has shareholders, and those shareholders sit on their butts as those doctors produce, as those doctors do things, and they make a profit off of every piece of work that doctor has done, every piece of work that waitress has done, that waiter has done, every piece of work that engineer has done. They make a small piece of profit, not a small piece, a large piece of profit on all of that. And I don't see there is a movement among engineers. I don't see there's a movement among doctors that say, let's turn this hospital into a collective. Actually, we are the ones making the money. Those people that are just throwing some money on the table, they don't deserve any of it. They did not work for it. They did not create anything. I don't see them doing that. If greed was true, if for there to be a good economy, people have to be greedy, or if they're to produce things of value for humanity, folks, engineers take all the information from scientists and build something useful. They do that irrespective of their pay. They do that irrespective of anything. So if all of us were greedy, and it took greed to produce something or create something, then as it turns out, it would be that engineers would not be working for the kind of money they're getting. They would be too greedy to be working for somebody else, and they would be doing it on their own. It's the business class, those folks that go to the business school, to Macabre School or all these Harvard business schools. They learn how to be immoral, inhumane, and greedy. I don't think it's not inbred in them. Business schools teach capitalism, which teaches you how to be what again? Ruthless, immoral, and inhumane. That is what business schools teach you. They teach you capitalism. And the definition of capitalism isn't really the most efficient uses of resources. It is how best to win by being immoral, inhumane, and ruthless. Until you get that in your mind, and if you doubt that, corporations, even the part of even when they give, you have to understand this. Even when corporations give, it is to maintain their existence. In other words, we give money to look good. A woman the other day told me, Egberto, I used to like you until you went Hollywood. And I started to laugh. I'm like, wait a minute. This is an old-time liberal, right? Oh, I went Hollywood? Wow. I don't think so. I think I'm still a nerd. And not only am I still a nerd, all the stuff I put on the screen is just to do stuff. But I'm still that altruistic son of a gun, idealistic, altruistic son of a gun. Nothing has changed. And then she said, well, I think what she was looking for is a PR, to be my PR person. Because she said, I've been a PR person all of my life, and you need a PR person. That's what she said, right? And this is what my answer to her. I'm always nice and, with the answer. I said, I'm not sure why you're telling me what you're telling me, but, I love constructive criticism. But the day that I need a PR person, you're telling me I need to promote a person that I am not. And the reason I brought what this one person told me, the reason I brought that up is we have been taught to only accept things that are marketed to us, not the truth. You go ahead and you put Clorox in a bottle and you slap on a nice label and you start to say, this is a bacteria and mold attacker and all that kind of stuff in a beautiful bottle with a face basin that is clean, and you dilute that Clorox or chlorine with water, and you start to use that. My wife would go and buy those things. Hey, they say this clean the bathroom real good. If there's mold there, it takes it off. And then I would go ahead and get the 25 cents bleach, put it in a bottle full strength, and spray it on some mold. It's gone. The well-marketed thing, nada, niet, very poor. And so I said babe, you have to be careful with marketing, because if you are not real, eventually, that's where we get America, where we can get a egoistic buffoon to fool enough people to become president of the United States. That was pure marketing. Pure marketing. There is nothing intrinsic to Donald Trump that should have made him president, that anyone could believe he was possibly competent enough to be president. But that's what corporations do too. That's their business. So even when they give, they're given under the context of, let's look good so that when we do bad, people also see that we do good. So the second example is capital/money does not have intellect. If you drop $1 billion on the table, it can create nothing. It needs the human and with intellect to accomplish something. So yes, the billionaire is useless. Yet in our economic system, we have given preeminence to capital over people, over humanity. So think about this. A guy somehow has $1 billion and we give him reverence. The $1 billion that Bill Gates is going to give to those engineers and those scientists that are going to create the virus, the whatever vaccine, if they ever get one vaccine for the thing. Bill Gates is getting all the credit. He's put in the billions. I love Bill Gates. I'm glad that he's using the billions that he did not really earn to do something good with. I'm glad for that. But the people that we are going to need to be really rewarding is, who is it that found out that we could do this with the RNA? Who actually found out we could do this with the DNA? We market in such a manner, and we have been indoctrinated in such a manner that we do not know how to assign worth. When I used to tell folks, my garbage man is worth more than any stockbroker, that is exactly what I meant. We have got to learn how to assign worth. How do you assign worth? It's not Bill Gates that is worthy. It's those people who have the intellect to create the DNA, to find out the parts of that virus that they can attach to so that they can kill it, or so they can have your immune system absorb it. Though that's where all the kudos belong. But when this is all over, watch this. When this is all over, all the people taking the credit are either the ones providing capital or the ones that claim to have provided governance. And the ones who are really responsible for making it happen, nobody will even know a name. Assigning worth, and that is where we go wrong, right? The reason why we allow ourselves to be taken is that if we don't learn where worth is supposed to be assigned, then we start to accept that Bill Gates is as important as he is, that Donald Trump is as important as he is, that all these people that we look up to are somehow worthy of things that others do. And that is what irks me the most. I need to finish the blog before I close out. It is important to note our economic system creates a facade of a meritocracy. The reality has always been you must be invited explicitly or explicitly to succeed. When tools are developed to level the playing field, capital eats it again. Example, record companies and talent companies used to choose who would become stars. It seemed like the internet would level the playing field. Talent could go directly to the people as social media and other forms. People got the freedom to choose who they liked, who would excel. Guess what happened? The powers found a way to remove the democratization of the internet by controlling its ubiquity and neutral, efficient access. They will have the ability to neuter those who do not play in the form they allow one to exist. So yes, you see all these internet stars. All Google is waiting for, or anybody is waiting for, is to hit the button. Somebody can be making millions of dollars because they're on YouTube. And YouTube decide, oh, I think you violated our rules, our terms. Click, and shuts you off. And suddenly you go from making $10,000 a month to zero a month because they decide you violated a contract because now they control the pipes. People have to understand these things, right? When you understand that this is not a free enterprise system. This is a system where you are controlled and where ultimately other people have your life in their hands. And until we get a true democracy that prevents that, we will never get there. But we can. Small window. Before that, let me read this thing. In my book, as I see it, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, I gave examples of how the patent system and other methods are used to limit one's success. Again, America is not a meritocracy. Repeat this with me. America is not a meritocracy. America is not a meritocracy. You have to be invited. Now, your invitation are given for various different reasons to be a part, but you must be first invited. You look at any, thank you for having been here, Michael. You look at any system. You look at look at how many starving lawyers you have. Look at how many unemployed doctors you have. Look at a lot of these different professions. You have to be invited. I can tell you stories of how I formed my software company and the hoops that I had to go through with my software company that most people never had to go through if they were invited. I was never invited until later on when companies like Boeing and Exxon and Texaco started to use my product. At first I thought I was deep, big caca. Then I had to say, wait a minute, I was chosen. It wasn't because my product was so much better than everybody else's product. It wasn't. If we want to be honest, I was chosen. For some reason, the other person wasn't. It's not a meritocracy. It's not a meritocracy. And until we humble ourselves to realize that if we are successful, we've done it on the backs of many, and we have done it in spite of others that may not been as good or some that may just have been better. And when you humble yourself to that reality, then you can really move forward. We have a small window to save our small companies and mom and pops and to restore the democratic value of the internet. There is not the time for now is not the time for the conservative, liberal, right-wing, progressive debate. The masses are on the same team now. We have to get to everybody. The masses are on the same team. Our biggest obstacle is ensuring people are truthfully informed. The thing is, mathematically, we can inform quickly. Geometric progression works, meaning if I inform 10 people and each of those 10 people inform 10 others, we can reach the entire population quickly. But it's not just the math that is holding us back. Practically, we must get around the indoctrination and all the isms in order for the message to seep in order to empower us all, to empower ourselves. I am positive that we will ultimately create the only survivable society, one that is egalitarian. The only society that can ultimately survive wars and killings and all of that is one that is egalitarian, no other. And that is the blog por el día. Folks, please remember to go ahead and share these programs. It is imperative that you share. If you're just joining us, please share, please share, please share. That's how we do it. Let me run an answer. Wow, it's kind of late. Let me do it real quick. Let's see. Pardon, need to step away. Have a good one. Roy Astra says, when I think of class warfare, I think of India. That was bad enough. Yeah, think about America now, my brother. Norman says, sorry. Wait, let's see what Norman says. Norman says, survivors. We all need to make sure we all can survive. Rent and mortgage support, medical support, and food support is what many of our fellow citizens need to survive. If you cannot survive, you do not have freedom. That is the message of the day. And I was watching them as they scroll. Norman, you got the message of the day. Dimitri OG, I honestly believe that Republicans and Trump want people to get evicted and become homeless so that they have no mailing address. It's not only that, brother Dimitri. Otra cosa también. What they want to do is if you are here's what everybody's talking. We're becoming a renter's economy, right? Where nobody really owns assets. So the idea is we have created a lot of structures to solve that, right? Here are the structures. People have started to build wealth in their homes. They have their home. So how do we take the wealth? We allow the structure called reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages allow people to say, oh, I can live good today. Forget about leaving anything for my kids in the future. Now, I'm not saying some people, that's all they were able to do. If that's all you can do, I understand. But encouraging people to do that, that is the ills. That is where things go bad. Anyhow, I got to go now, folks. But before I go, I need to ask you guys to please become subscribers to Politics Done Right. We cannot do it without you. To become a subscriber, please first visit politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Become a subscriber. It's inexpensive, and you allow us to continue doing what we're doing. We cannot do this without you. It's not possible for us to do this without you. So please consider becoming a patron. That is Polit. Thank you so kindly, Michael Joshua, for that super chat. Michael Joshua just gave me a super chat. Shiva Dog with sparkles in his eyes saying, my hero. Love you, Michael. Others can give me super chats as well. I love super chats. Okay, if you want, you can also provide us support on PayPal. Simply go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, and I have that on the screen as well. You can also shop at our store. To shop at our store, please go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/store, politicsdoneright.com/store. What can you get? You can get our nice cup here. You see that cup, Politics Done Right cup. We also have the Politics Done Right cup that says, I support independent media. We also have it that says, let me put it on the screen. We also have it with the squad. You know, I love those young ladies because I think they are the future. We also have that on the screen that you had, that you see that one, that cup there with the one with the ladies on it. That is a good one to get as well. Go on to politicsdoneright.com/store. Get yourself some T-shirts, all that good stuff. And in doing so, you're supporting the movement. You're supporting what we do. Likewise, you can. Facebook has, over the last couple of weeks, have allowed us to take memberships on Facebook. I'd like to build a membership base on Facebook as well. So please, if you have the wherewithal, please go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. That is politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. It'll take you to our Facebook page directly, and you can go ahead and subscribe to us on Facebook. We're going to have some, the way we're going to do things is we're going to, and again, I'm just trying to get these memberships up, and then we're going to have different things. For the membership on Facebook, we'll do a little something for those folks, and then we'll do it for the patrons, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, repeating again, please go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon to become a patron, a subscriber. Likewise, you can subscribe at politicsdoneright.com/Facebook, and you can provide us support at politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. If you want to support our fund, our equipment fund, you can go to politicsdoneright.com/GoFundMe. And I want to thank again Michael Joshua for your super chat. Anybody who wants to provide a super chat can also just do what Michael did. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. I know you have places that you can go anywhere, so I thank you so kindly for spending this time. Wait a minute, I didn't call out my people. I'm going to use 1 extra minute. Michael Rudden, thank you for being here. AVQ, thank you for being here. Paul Fleming, thank you for being here. Fire Service, thank you for being here. Bruce Pollard, thank you for being here. Michael Rudden. Let's see who else. Dimitri OG, AVQ. Para ver. If I miss you, forgive me. Who else is here? I saw a lot more. Para ver. Let's see. I think I call up Norman Reynolds, Troy Astro. Thank you for being here. And of course, there is Michael Joshua, Lady Dina and husband. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Mike Cizek. Thank you for being here. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Oh, thank you very much for being here, Papi Manny. I am what? Out. I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.